Aurum's Tale. Whew, Radley. I already puffed smoke about this game in the original look I gave it in the RPG Maker experience. But this game, I spent a good 20-30 minutes in awe at some of the stuff you managed here. I mean, I'll save it for the respective sections in the video, but in advance I'll say, holy fuck, this could be a professional game, and if you don't consider it, it'd be a crime. So this play session had less playtime than some of the other sessions I do. I normally aim for about 6 hours of recording, this has 4. And that is because I made a pretty good chunk of progress and I reached a pretty good stop point, and I don't want to push further and then hit a point that isn't a really good stop point. Less is more in situations like this. So, let's get rolling with the review. Will Aurum's Tale dethrone our current champion, or will it join the pack with its score? Stay tuned and find out. This story reminds me a lot of Idrika Descending's story. You know, funny how that one works. Explore the world, find and kill several MacGuffin monsters that are related to elements, and save the world. And hey, don't knock it if it works, it's a solid story. Unlike Idrika though, this game's world building with a story and ensemble of characters is just top notch. This game is really solidly written, and every NPC, no matter what, always has something unique with them. And I never found myself zoning out through the story or feeling like I was just going through the motions. The villain's presence is amazing. It is a genius concept for a villain, and it's not one I've ever really seen before, so I'm not going to drop the ball on that. If you want to know what the villain's presence is in this story, go play the game yourself. It is a really good experience. Once again, Radley, you've made a story that is simple enough to follow easily, but it's complex enough that some of the story twists and story beats really took me off guard. So I'm going to give the story a 4 out of 5, because it's a good story. Swing for the fences, because despite only having met 4 characters so far, and I don't know if there's any more party members, they're really fun to interact with and watch over the course of the adventure. Aurum's the protagonist, just as confused about the world as the player is, and for a reason that makes sense and doesn't feel all that cliched. Aurum's just never left his hometown. His character's growth going from a timid farm boy to a confident hero is a great development to see, and while in my opinion he's the weakest of the 4 character-wise, he's certainly not a slouch for a character. Silita is the traditional straight man to the rest of the party's nonsense, and yet she even has her moments of comedy as well. She's a talented member of a religion of this world as a glassmancer, and a lot of her worldviews are seemingly shaped by that religious background, being very knowledgeable in the past of the world and its legends. It's nice to see a character like this, good for the sake of it, and while there may be a couple ulterior motives, she's still a good person and probably my personal favourite out of the 4. Drim is a character who I have axes to grind with, but those axes I'll speak a lot more in the combat section because they play a lot more in the combat section. As a character, Drim is awesome. He's the loyal best friend character trope that I really wanted to see more of in these sorts of games. He's loyal to a fault, incredibly street smart, and while he may not be the brightest bulb, he'll burn bright when it matters. And that is with street tactics. Thames as a character thrives when he's helping other characters synergize into the storyline. His character is strengthened when he's strengthening other characters, like with Drim in the Marsh or Silita at the Thunder Village. But alone, he stumbles as a character. His best moments are in the Burning Tower, where he acts as a grounding presence, reminding the others of the fact they're in a goddamn burning building. The characters here are really strong. All 4 of them have their moments in the spotlight, and none of them feel like they're being overshadowed by others in the party. Special highlights to just some of the moments in the temples. They are really good for character building, and it gives everyone their moment in the sun. So I'm going to give character a score of 4 out of 5. Here is where I will sing the praises of this game. The combat is unlike anything I have ever seen out of an RPG Maker game, with plugins or otherwise. To begin,
Aurum's transformations allow him to switch between one of 5 elemental types, giving him access to different magic depending on what type he is. For example, Fire and Earth get access to an additional damage-dealing spell. Electric allows him to power up his basic attacks to attack more times in quick succession. And Ice is your standard support type. This is amazing, and it defines the game around a gameplay loop of finding and exploiting the elemental weaknesses in your enemies. Fames brings a whole new dynamic to that, with his traps forcing certain elemental weaknesses, allowing you to use Fames to set up ice weaknesses and then switch everyone to ice element damage to deal super effective damage against enemies. Sileta functions similarly to Aurum, with her arts allowing her to channel specific elements into her claw attacks. But while she has the elements up, her other attacks, such as her healing skill, have additional effects at the cost of losing that element boost, which is a huge risk-reward. Do you spend the extra turn to get an element up to guarantee a group heal, or do you heal immediately and keep Sileta in the fight for longer? It's a bit of a gamble choice. The only character who doesn't really interact with this at the moment is Drim. He is really good at keeping himself alive. He has a life drain over time skill and a mana drain over time skill, allowing him to keep his health and mana topped off pretty much whenever he wants. But where things get interesting is that he has access to some thievery skills. One that steals money, one that steals vegetables, and one that steals element orbs. These element orbs can be used to deal, shocker, elemental damage. The only thing that I have an issue with here is that as of my play, when I finished up playing, he was pretty much forced into using the one that gives a random element orb, which means sometimes he'll just pull the ones you don't need. I know there is skills that force specific element orbs, but they need to come a lot earlier, or the odds of getting specific orbs need to be able to be manipulated somehow. Because I'm going to be honest, doing the Thunder Trial, pulling 8 Thunder Orbs in a row was not a fun time. This is not really a jab against it though, it was just bad luck on my end. Moving away from the actual combat itself and more to the status conditions, Deep Freeze is really cool. Not only is it a skill that locks an enemy out of locks an ally out of attacking until you defrost on your own, or you use fire spells to break the ice. It also physically changes the appearance of characters affected by it, which is a very nice touch. There's also a couple unique field effects that somehow work, like the fire and thunder domes during the god fights, where you have to use certain element spells to break the dome's effects, as leaving the domes up is a massive hindrance to you if they can get their core status condition up. This game's combat flows like smooth cream, and the entire game feels a lot more like you're solving a puzzle than actually doing fights. The only real issue I have is that some battles don't show the elemental weakness and will change it quite frequently, leaving you playing a guessing game as to which element is the one you need to be using, turning it into a war of attrition. But I don't think it's enough to bring the score down from where I'm placing it at a solid 5 out of 5. Congratulations on the 5 here, Radley. How the fuck do you do it, my guy? These locations are absolutely beautifully designed, with the addition of Aurum's elemental powers giving exploration bonuses. You can burn away foliage with fire, you can make ice across water with ice, you can teleport with electric, you can break boulders with earth, and you can jump across gaps with wind. These are good, and it rewards you for exploring and poking around and finding new paths around the area. And you've somehow made the ability to walk underneath buildings with semi-transparent triggers underneath, like, stall roofs and the like? Dude, Radley, how do you do it? The Lightning Temple is where I will say there's always one part of a game that I have a gripe with, and the Lightning Temple is that part. The puzzles are already confusing, requiring you to use the lightning teleport pads to get around to scale up the temple, but it's the white lightning flashes, or the plumes. It disorients me personally, and it made it really hard to see at times. Thankfully, it's not very frequent, and it isn't wind caverns bad, but it was still a very tough to see at times. But even that was beautiful. Like, the exterior to that temple is great. Once again, Radley's location design is the highlight of a game's experience, rewarding you for paying attention and exploring with items, new spells, and fun uses of the elemental transportation. This is the easiest 5 out of 5 I'll be giving to any game in existence. Easier than pushing forward on the control stick. This one was a very close debate here. This game has constantly kept me engaged and ready to press on for more and more content. The combat is engaging and rewarding for being invested in learning its complexities and understanding how it works, with amazingly designed locations that are beautiful to explore, elemental abilities that enable even more exploration paths and opportunities, and making most new spells optional, and a cast of characters that click and bounce with each other so well. This was a really hard choice for me. I had to go and take a walk again to decide this, and at the end of it all, I decided for the first time in this series to give a game a third 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this game, and I am eager to play more of it, and it is just a tragedy that I was limited by time here. With a score of 23 out of 25, this means we have a new reigning champion in the review series. Congratulations, Radley, you're back on top. This game stands in a field of its own. The mechanics I've seen from this game are so unique and creative, I can barely believe that this was done with just the PlayStation version of RPG Maker. This game feels like something a team of professionals would make. Like, it is insane. This game earned its 3 5s, and bravo, just bravo. This game is something that, as I've said, I'm very excited to come back and look at more in the future. And like every new location I went to, I was just blown away with the stuff that you'd managed to perform. And all of this, even stuff I didn't show, like the balloon battle with the vampire, that was genius. I don't know if it's possible to win that fight or if it's just a scripted losing the balloon breaks. But the genius concept of like destroying the imps before they can go mess up the engine, that's good. That's a fun concept. You make everything you've made here feels fun to explore. It feels like a delight to investigate and poke around in. Keep it up, my dude. Aurum's Tale is a game that I believe with 100% certainty that if it was somehow taken to the wider world through whatever methods can be used to distribute this game onto more platforms, it would be pretty damn successful there. Honestly, it is criminal that more people haven't seen this. With each game I see of yours, Radley, I get more and more impressed with your design skills. Workshop, concepting, everything you've done here is just amazing. The next video I make will be covering Demon King Defiance, again, finishing off that game finally. The next few videos actually will be going back to games I've looked at already and finishing them off properly for the review series. So hopefully over the next few videos we'll start to clean out some of the backlog of games that I have to finish off. As I do so, now that we've gotten an entire section full of games, I will be making a separate category for each. So I'll be making like an overall review, and then I'll be doing an overall review score at the end, and then I'll do a separate review score for just this season, the games I've looked at, just so that it is still legible somewhat. I'll have to make multiple pages for it anyway, but that's all I had to say for this video anyway. So as always, thank you very much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video, again on Demon King Defiance, and have a good rest of your day, night, whatever it is for you all. Bye.